The golden age of science fiction is 12. In researching the origin of this saying, I found that it was first recorded by Terry Carr in the anthology Universe 3. In his introduction, dated 1972, he says, "Years ago, a friend of mine, Pete Graham, tersely answered the question, when was the golden age of science fiction, by saying, 12. He didn't have to explain further. We knew what he meant. I think it refers to that kid-like wonder that you have with science fiction. It made me think, what are some of the things that I watched or read around the age of 12 that gave me wonder? And then I started thinking about what are some of the things that give me wonder now that remind me of that 12-year-old boy. So let's start off with movies. When it came to science fiction movies, most of them were shown either late night. I would get to stay up maybe for a 10:30 movie on Friday nights, or they were shown on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. I remember loving the old monster movies. 91 years ago, King Kong was released. The main character was a stop animation creature, a powerful creature, but a creature with emotions that you could empathize with. Another monster movie is the classic Godzilla. Once again, I'm talking about the original movie of Godzilla. Of course, it was adapted for American audiences too. So what are some movies today that awoke that wonder of a 12-year-old? Well, Godzilla -1 brings back the big guy in a big way. In many ways, it was back to basics, and it was spectacular. And just for some sheer dumb fun, you really can't beat
Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Pacific Rim. Those are the creature features, but what about real science fiction? Well, I remember bargaining with my parents so that I could stay up late to watch The War of the Worlds from 1953.
In the First World War, and for the first time in the history of man, nations combined to fight against nations using the crude weapons of those days. The Second World War involved every continent on the globe, and men turned to science for new devices of warfare, which reached an unparalleled peak in their capacity for destruction. And now, fought with the terrible weapons of super science, menacing all mankind and every creature on Earth, comes the War of the Worlds.
The opening of the movie chilled me. Here were aliens that we just didn't understand, invading our planet. So what contemporary movie did this remind me of? Brought out that sense of wonder? Arrival from 2016. Based on a short story called Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang, we have aliens that appear, and a linguistic professor is our protagonist trying to communicate with them. So let's talk TV. Star Trek, the original series. I think I saw all the episodes of Star Trek, the original series in reruns. Besides the science fiction stories, I just loved the characters and the way they interacted with each other. Nowadays, I get that sense of fun from another Star Trek, Brave New Worlds. Captain Christopher Pike might be the best Starfleet captain since James T. Kirk, which is kind of funny because Kirk came after him. Also in reruns when I was about 12 years old was The Twilight Zone. This series ran from 1959 to 1964. Most of the episodes were half an hour long and told a story with some sort of paradigm shift or twist ending. So what's a contemporary equivalent? I found this one a little bit difficult. So I was considering Love, Death, and Robots from Netflix. This is an animated series. Each short film is a story unto itself. But I think some of the chemistry of Star Trek and some of the fun that I had with the series was more represented in a mystery show. Sherlock, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, had that kind of feel. We had our Spock-like character in Sherlock, and Freeman was almost like a Dr. McCoy. And the last TV series that I want to talk about is Space 1999. I was particularly taken with the first season of Space 1999. Just as the opening music was a weird mix of classical style with funky 70s music, the stories themselves were somewhat like that as well. The moon itself was the vehicle to get us out into interstellar space. So what contemporary show reminded me of this? Well, this might be a bit of a reach. This was a very serious show, and It was fixed in a space station, Babylon 5. Just as the action in Space 1999 focused around the moon, so did the action in this series around Babylon 5. The overarching theme of the Shadow War made this series feel like a series of novels, and the CGI space battles were amazing for TV of that time. So that's movies and TVs of the time when I was 12 years old. What about novels? When I was 12, I was in middle school, and I remember the library and looking for the science fiction section. 2 novels had a great impact on me. The first is more known as a movie now than it is a novel, but the novel came first. Planet of the Apes by Pierre Boulle. I had never seen the movie The Planet of the Apes, and this was an amazing story. In some ways, it was like an extended Twilight Zone episode. So how does a memory of a 12-year-old reading Planet of the Apes hold up? Well, I read it recently, and I have to tell you, it's still one of my favorite novels. It still reminds me of how I felt as a 12-year-old boy reading this for the first time. I still highly recommend this novel. Then, another one from middle school, Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. I guess I was hooked on Twilight Zone-like novels at that time because this one too has in fact 2 paradigm shifts. My 12-year-old mind was boggled by the ideas in this novel. So I reread this one when I started the channel, and I'm happy to say it still holds up. There are definitely some themes that I'm thinking about as an adult that I didn't think about as a 12-year-old boy, but there still is a sense of wonder in this story. Another highly recommended novel. You can find my reviews for these novels on the channel, and I'll put links in the description for this video. So now it's your turn. What are some films, TV shows, and novels that remind you of when you were 12 years old? That give you that sense of wonder? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep reading.